That's
Yo, that's a great intro, huh? I figured I could just steal their intro and then I forget to unmute. That's great.
And the hollows are all about.
Inky black.
Let me press the right buttons. There we are. Hello.
Spellcaster. It was such a great source of power that
let's see what they have in store for us.
Hollows monster turned into the Priestess of Hatred.
Yo, Matt. Those things are fucking awesome, by the way. Like, out of all the things out of Vessel of Hatred, those things are cool as fuck. That's a nasty fucking enemy.
I'm Victor Lee, a principal concept artist on the Diablo team, and I concepted the Priestess of Hatred.
Victor Lee is one of the OGs from Diablo, and he's known for creating a lot of dark imagery. And every time we want to have a monster or boss, he's done all the greats, even Diablo himself.
Oh,
One
really?
of his monitors on the side of his desk is just like a dark black eye staring at him. And so when we needed something
Why?
pure darkness, like, we had to tap Vic.
I feel like when we're talking about hatred, I kind of visualize it as like a black, webby-like thing.
Oh,
So
that's
I thought
cool as fuck.
a spider configuration would work for this. So I did a few variations, some with souls, human souls trapped in the abdomen. It's like a purgatory because this creature consumes humans.
Wow, that's
I had
nasty.
this nagging feeling for a long time that why I felt it's not working, no matter how interesting the design is, I'm not pushing the boundaries. So I basically
Those were nasty, dude. This guy
a lot of our creatures
seemingly
are
is
just
the
like
goat.
raw aggression. This is muscly and just brutal. Maybe this one is more insidious. What if the human figure is not?
Why does he have such a
It's the other way around.
fucking stereotypical Asian accent? Like, just a subtle undertone
Mocking
of
humanity.
like Hollywood
Dragging a puppet
joke Asian
So
accent.
what I did is I kept the human figure as a focal point.
I kept
The
the
rest of the
human figure.
creature is
Oh,
this
what the fuck? That was
mass
completely wrong.
Of
I kept the human
basically a
figure.
ball of hatred. It broke a lot of rules, but I just felt like this just fits. So I went ahead with it and rendered it out.
No, I went African instead of fucking. I don't know
I was
why.
looking at the
I fucked it
concept
up
for the first
completely.
time with the designer on the feature, Charles.
Dude,
and
he
we
just-
were kind of in this stunned silence for a little bit because it was this
It's just
reaction
that
of,
stereo. It's
this
subtle
thing
though,
is
but it's
so
stereotypical
cool.
Asian
And then
accent.
we started thinking,
Dude, I
how are
love
we even going to
accents.
make
They're
this thing
so
move?
good. It makes it so much more
Typically,
interesting.
Our monsters are bipedal or they're quadrupeds. How's it going to move? We can't rely on walk cycles anymore. How's it going to rotate? We can't rely on, the built-in rotation stuff without it looking weird as hell. It was clear that in order to make this like animate and look natural, we were going to have to pretty much dive into uncharted territory. We wanted it to move in a very unique way. We wanted it to somersault through the air and be super unpredictable and zippy and just have like ridiculous animations as those tentacles are flying all over the place.
We had that narrative and kind of drive to make it formless, and with our conventional rigging that we couldn't do that.
we were doing prototyping before the feature even kicked off. Like, we were already meeting with animation
Mobutu,
to
yes.
say, hey, we have this thing.
I don't know
think it's
why.
really cool,
I'm
but
usually
we need
pretty
help
good at it,
figuring
but
this out."
not
So we had a
today.
lot
My
of
head
early
is not in it
collaboration, which is
apparently.
really what set us up for success.
When the animator came back with it, going from post to post rather than your normal animations, I was like, yes, that's it. That's what hatred should feel like.
When you first find the Priestess of Hatred, it's going to look like a lifeless human corpse. And you're like, doesn't look like a boss fight. I'm in a boss arena, what's going on? But as you approach, you see that the body gets pulled into a giant pool of hatred, and then out of that pool of hatred comes this giant mass of tentacles. And that is the boss. So after animation, it gets to come to me. And
I don't
get to
understand
do
why
all
this
of the
not
really
this boss is
cool
not in the
visual
pit.
effects at the end. Show what those tentacles are doing when they impact the ground, when they slap something, when they hit the player. it really brings
Like
the
that
entire
fight was
thing
actually
together.
cool, but I don't think they've used it anywhere else.
The vomit attack is really gross because there's like this part of the torso of the humanoid that has been kind of hollowed out and now has teeth. The tentacles come out from the mass and they grab the humanoid and kind of pull the body back so that the slit in the belly opens up and all of the hatred just pours out in a straight beam. It's pretty gross.
Dude, that boss there is super interesting. Like, it's so much better than fucking Tomb Lord.
On your screen, you can tell that they are different. They have just such unique behaviors and animations.
We were able to execute on a vision that's really just so different than what we typically do.
The whole process made me feel very proud of our whole team.
Everyone
Oh,
just
she had a
got
thicker
it.
one.
They understood what the monster was. They got the vision.
Dude, I love accents.
It
They're
just
so
worked.
good. Fucking it's so good.
The eye on the screen has many functions. It keeps me in the right frame of mind. What we are doing is dark. It should be horrifying. I should feel the fear while I'm doing it. It's a reminder of that. The eye also serves as a warning. Like, get moving. Don't dwell too long and wander around, you know.
You can't unhear
Get
the
this thing
accents
moving.
exactly. Dude, I
Get the
love
work
it.
done.
It makes it so much more interesting to listen to. As long as they're not fake. Like, I hate when it's like a fake posh British accent. Like, the posh British accent is good, but whenever somebody's faking it
Hello,
because they
Diablo
like it, I
community.
hate
Welcome
it.
to another Diablo 4 Campfire chat with a creepy eyeball. We were just talking
Why is there a
about.
Stalin
This one is our
in the
patch
background?
2.1 PTR Campfire chat. I know we were just here last week when we were
Or
talking
a
about the mid-season
whatever
update,
that is.
But this one is kind of like the big one because we're going to be talking about everything coming with patch 2.1 and season
Scouse.
7. I am joined here
Fucking
by Mr. Colin Feiner, Mr.
Patty the
Charles Dunn,
Batty.
who have appeared on prior Campfire chats.
You'll
We
do
were gonna
nothing.
have Adam Jackson. He is unfortunately
fart.
not feeling very well, so we hope he gets better soon. And we do also have another guest here who is live from Albany, Blizzard Albany, and that is
mushroom.
Mr. Dan Tangway, who's going to be talking a little bit as well about what's coming up for patch 2.1.
Have you seen,
He's
do you
showing off
see
his red Diablo 4
UFC at
jacket.
all,
We have our
Matt?
new black Diablo
Yo,
4
eyewitness.
jackets as well.
It is the Diablo 4
models
Campfire,
entirely
so they're going to
made
tell
from
us what's in for season 7.
And
Can he hear
he's not sure if he can hear me.
Oh, no.
But either way, a few things that we do want to talk about before we
Not
actually do
really?
jump into everything.
You
Obviously, PTR is
should look
coming
up
soon.
Patty-
We are doing the
Patty
stream
Pimblett.
a little
Patty
early
the
this
Batty.
time, mainly because the Thanksgiving holiday is coming up here in the U.S. And
He's
so
fucking
we are gonna be
scouse
talking
as
about some of the
fuck,
contents
and he
before
is-
even the patch notes are ready.
He's
We do
so-
plan on having a blog immediately after the stream.
You know Patty
so
Fair.
players
Okay,
can
good.
actually check out the blog and read a little bit more about what we talked about today. But the patch notes will be available next Wednesday for players to actually check out.
Not to
so
know
it'll be
him?
before
I mean, he
the
is just a
holiday
fighter,
here,
right?
So everyone can kind of dive deep.
Dude, my
into the
camera's not
patch notes
focusing.
for PTR.
I guess that's okay.
PTR is currently planned to start on December 3rd, so that will be after the U.S. holidays here for Thanksgiving. So there's a ton of stuff that
He's
is
hilarious.
coming
He
up
is. A little
for players to
mushroom.
kind of jump into.
You'll do
But
nothing,
I know
you little
what we wanna
fart.
do is really just dive straight deep into all the new stuff that we do want to talk about.
Oh,
So for
lucky.
the first thing we do want to chat about is just season 7 and what that's going to be. So we're actually going to jump over to Mr. Dan Tangway in Albany to kind of walk
Oh,
us
now it
through.
just doesn't
So,
come on
Dan, do
again.
you wanna
Okay.
take over?
Your guild leader, Scouse. So good.
Dan can currently hear.
All right. What happened?
So I don't know what happened. I mean, maybe we don't have satellites working or something like that. So instead, I guess we'll just start with classes first.
Sure.
So Mr. Charles Dunn, do you want to talk about class changes that are coming with season 7? I know we talked a little bit about this last week with Adam Jackson. Just a reminder, Spiritborn, expect that to be addressed for season 7, and we will actually be talking a little bit about that now. So Charles.
Yeah,
Take us through it.
absolutely. I love to talk about some of the changes coming to all the different classes in
I
Diablo
don't
4,
think
as well as some,
they should
broader,
talk
more
about
systemic
this.
updates that are happening that kind of affect all classes equally in a way.
Yeah, so like I said, just going through individual class by class, seeing some of the new stuff that's coming for a lot of classes. Let's start with the Barbarian, I believe is the first one up. Yeah, so Barbarian is definitely a class that we think a lot of the classes have been performing pretty well across the board. They're always a step under the Spiritborn, but Barbarian maybe a step and a half below, and so we're looking at a lot
Couldn't you
of
just
buffs
say
across
you've
the board
doubled it?
for them here. Specifically looking at some stuff with Hammer of the Ancients, buffing that number up here. A little bit of a
Why is
rework
there a
to the
before and
Walking Arsenal
after?
passive.
Just
Previously,
walking Arsenal,
it was,
2x.
The
Move
bonus
on.
was just 8%. Now we're going to be giving you a bigger bonus, and when you have all of them active, you're going to get more attack speed and some bonus crowd control duration, which we think really plays into that that kind of build.
There's no
Additionally, we're also updating Earthquakes.
There's no
That has
functionality
been
change.
One of my favorite builds.
Got a
on Barbarian,
stretch?
right? Just seeing those big earthquakes come
Maybe.
out everywhere.
Leafquake is the best.
Leafquake, oh, I absolutely love it. The visuals on that is just top notch. So we're really we took some lessons from what we did on rogues in the past with their stun grenades power, where a lot of the legendaries that talk to stun grenades also had kind of this extra bit where it increased the damage of all of your stun grenades, so that you kind of got these synergistic builds with the various aspects all together. And we're extending that over to earthquakes now here. So we're adding on basically.
This
hey,
just
all these
seems
ones that
like
talk to
everybody
earthquakes
is going to want to run
they
this
increase
now.
The damage.
45% multiplicative damage
It's a little bit
for
less
just
finicky too, right?
stomping.
Because now it lasts after the earthquake expires, or if you leave it.
Absolutely. So we think this would just be a much more comprehensive build overall. We also got a new legendary that talks directly to earthquakes as well. Ups their damage and increases their fire, or turns it into fire damage. And I think this is really cool. And we're going to see some more stuff as you actually get onto the PTR. But I think Earthquakes and Hammer of the Ancients might be a build that you're going to be very interested in combining those two with some of the the that you will see come PTR.
I really wish they'd stop
move
with
on
the
to,
specific
the
shit. They
source,
did so
the
good for the
sorceress.
Spiritborn.
Sorceress, one of the key notes that we've noticed with Sorceress over the whole lifespan of Diablo as Diablo 4 is that players often felt like they were pigeonholed into burning builds in particular. Firebolt enchantment is probably the most used enchantment.
Oh,
by
this
far,
is not good.
because it was just kind of a free way to apply a very small amount of burning to enemies, but that was what you needed to.
Oh,
turn
they
a
need
lot
to
of
buff
the
Sorcerer
passives in their
massively.
Skill tree. And that was a powerful build, powerful interactions, but we felt like that was making everything a little too homogenous. You felt like you had to
So
do
now
this
you made it
in order to
useless.
access,
Okay,
a lot of these
gotcha.
passives. And so we decided that we really want these burning synergies to really be benefiting builds that are dedicated to burning.
Oh
type
my
builds,
lord,
and
they
not just ones who are splashing it in with Firebolt enchantment. And so with that in mind, we did a rework on the enchantment to increase the or remove the burning damage from the enchantment and change it over to this, which has a healing component to it.
Yeah, so it's
and then
useless.
We also
Okay.
updated a lot of those burning passives to really play better in the dedicated fire-based builds, rather than being something that you just want to splash into everything.
Yeah, hopefully there's a lot more build variety.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is one of the main driving goals of a lot of our updates is increasing that build variety, so you don't feel like you have to take this checklist of mandatory things before moving on.
So they
to
just
what you actually want to
nerf?
build. So an example here on Devouring Blaze.
Oh no, they didn't. It's the same now, but it's just
Previously, it was
no.
bonus critical
It just
strike
doesn't
damage
have an
against
extra
burning
thing.
enemies, no matter how much they're burning for.
I thought
so
it
you
was
just apply
increased
that little
by-
bit of burning, and you would get this. Now instead, you get a bigger bonus, but it's just for your pyromancy critical strike skills. So it
They
really
need to
encourages,
fucking
hey,
buff
you're a
Zork
fireball
if they're
build, you're
doing
a
this.
meteor build, something that wants to do those big fire crits.
That burning
Devouring
shit
Blaze
is the
now even more
backbone of
valuable for those
sorcerer
builds,
scaling for a lot of
and it's not
things,
something that you
especially
necessarily need to or
defensively.
feel compelled to splash in other builds. All right, on to the next one. We also did some updates for Ball Lightning. So Ball Lightning, the previous upgrades, like kind of these Mage's Ball Lightning and Wizard's Ball Lightning, were about stunning enemies or
30x
responding to
damage.
correct energy with admittedly some kind of complex conditions. You had to jump through a lot of hoops to get these. One of the things we really like to do with a lot of these updates is simplify them down and streamline and really focus in on what the interesting factor is.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more modular too, right? So there's more builds, the less sort of focused that initial step is on that skill.
Absolutely. So we've got the Mage's Ball Lightning here that now is just increasing its damage against stunned enemies. It's really that payoff for a lot of the lightning stun effects.
They really need to buff
And
fucking
then,
Sork.
Wizard's Ball Lightning is just always going to be generating more cracked energy, just more consistent generation there. All right, on to the next one. We've got
Strike
some
of
the new uniques
Stormhorn.
we're going to show off here on the Sork, talking about Ball Lightning. So
That looks
this is
cool.
actually something interesting we're doing this season where we're making
Critical
two
strike, Ball Lightning projectile
uniques
speed,
that
4 Ball
are in the
Lightning.
same slot.
Chance
And
for
they're going to
projectiles to
modify the
cast
skill in a different
twice.
way. So they will be
The
mutually
focus
exclusive.
without
So you can
cooldown
take
reduction
either
on,
this
that's
one
not
here,
good.
Which turns Ball Lightning into a kind of like a bowling ball, really. You
A
send
Super
it
Ball Lightning,
forward,
can we get
it
to
goes
see
pretty
that?
fast, and when it hits a target, it's going to explode and kind of splash outward. And I think this is really cool. It offers a switched up play style to the way you're familiar with Ball Lightning, which was kind of slow moving forward, or if you pick the other unique, you
That's
can
the big
actually
one.
retain the
Oh, that's
old
the big one, okay.
gravitational aspect. So we can go on and take a look at that one here in the next clip. Right, so a lot of the Ball Lightning builds in the past were using the gravitational aspect that caused it to rotate around you, and we've updated that and kind of reworked the gravitational aspect so that now that functionality is built into this new unique and also has some additional bonuses to encourage this kind of play style. And obviously the gravitational aspect
Attack
that used
speed,
to do
after
this has
casting
been
defense
reworked into a new
skill,
cool
reduction for
effect
each
that you'll be able
active,
to
4
demo out
to Ball
on
Lightning,
PTR
chance
as
for Ball
well.
Lightning cast twice.
This is like a fun trade-off now, and sort of how you want to use Ball Lightning.
Wait,
Yeah,
so
it really helps it be a bit more build defining, which is our goal for a lot of the uniques is hey, you get this unique and
Again,
it feels like it's very
it's a focus without
foundational to your
cooldown
build.
reduction on.
One thing I do want to call out here
Ball
is
Lightning
the
can be cast while
inherent
moving?
affix on
Big.
this, right up near the top, that Ball Lightning can be cast while moving. This makes it a lot smoother to just be moving around and just keep on clicking that Ball Lightning, and you're not going to have to like stop like that, very short half-second stop to cast it. It just feels much smoother, and this is one that you really. This
That's
build is
really
just
cool.
wants to be on the move.
Right.
I do like
encourages
that.
All right, so let's talk about the Druid
Season of the
next.
Werewolf.
So this one, Druid is this season
Dude,
a lot of
they need to
werewolf
buff
updates. You know,
Sorcerer
Season of the
tremendously if they're
Werewolf.
taking away
I
that
absolutely
fire
love
shit.
werewolf builds, and I think they've been, maybe a little bit behind the rest of builds over the course of Diablo's history. And so this season, a lot of our updates are really focused on building.
Have they?
Making that build come up to par.
Yeah, like pure werewolf, right? Not
Pure
like
werewolf.
mixing it with other things.
Yeah, a
Oh,
lot of times you saw
okay.
some like rapid shape-shifting builds, and those are fun. Those are great, but pure werewolf wasn't quite hitting the mark, and so that's what a lot of our focus is.
I've been Lightning
Let's
Werewolf.
take a look at some of these updates. So we've got updates to Shred, the main core skill for these werewolf builds. Previously, the Raging Shred upgrade was just a combo attack that applied some poisoning damage. So now it's going to still do that and apply a lot more poisoning damage, but it's also going to cause them to take even more poisoning damage for the next 5 seconds. So this is, your kind of finishing move on your combo or your core combo, but then it also enhances all of the other poisoning damage that you've applied through something like Rabies.
Why would you?
All right, we've got updates to Boulder. Now this
Let's
isn't
go.
necessarily with the werewolf theme, but
Critical
still
strike
Boulder
increase
is
each time it deals
a
damage.
skill that we saw a good opportunity to improve on it.
Boulder
We
now
had,
deals
2 upgrades
poison
on Boulder
damage?
in the past, the 2 choices, and they were both fairly
Holy
similar.
shit.
They both dealt with critical strike chance or critical strike damage, and we thought that was an opportunity to
well,
rework one of
I'm
them
not
to
sure how.
give it a
That
different
means you don't
identity.
have to use
And,
Poison Creeper anymore in the
basically,
Boulder
identity was
Druid, but then
Poison
again,
Boulder,
you don't really have
and
anything
just
to
a
do.
giant ball of poison.
Yeah.
What does that look like, or what does that do?
Changing the damage type always helps sort of branch out and make it feel really different.
Yeah, and we got some really sweet visuals for it too. I'm not sure if we have a video on that.
Yeah,
I
I
think we just
know,
have
the
to
poisonous
rely on
Boulder
it.
shit is kind of weird, but it's because Druid has a lot of poison synergy,
It's got some cool.
so they want to bring that into the Boulder.
Yeah, and so that one will be very cool. Definitely check that one out.
This one I'm very excited about because Bloodhowl, as we see, has always just generated spirit, but now.
Yeah, it was always just generating some spirit, but you still do that, but now it gives you even more increased damage until you shapeshift out of werewolf form. So going back to what Colin mentioned about really focusing in on pure werewolf. that was an area that we felt.
Dude, Tornado
hey,
Druid's
we
gonna
wanna really
fucking
reward you for
fry
staying
in
the
Season
werewolf
7.
form and really committing to that identity, and just making sure that felt like an appropriate payoff.
At least
and
in
this is one
comparison
of
to
the
what it did
areas that we're doing
before.
that in.
It's getting so many multiplicative damage increases.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about one of the updated legendaries. So the aspect of the Blurred Beast. So this previously was a legendary that just caused your shred to do some bonus damage to poison enemies. It was fine, but it wasn't too enticing. But now with the new update here, you actually still do more damage just all the time. And depending on how far you're traveling for shred, you're going to do some bonus hits.
So they're making everything play the way Spiritborn plays right now?
Werewolf is dashing across the screen and then just doing this like multi-hit kind of attack. And so if you're really close, you're just
So
gonna
this
get
is
maybe
just
one
hold
additional
down
strike,
right
but if
click,
you're
move
at this
through,
further
and you'll
distance,
just
as you
dash
see in this clip,
like it was
you're
in
gonna get
Season
the
1
full,
for the speed
4
build
hits.
there.
So it's really about positional gameplay a bit more than it was in the past, and you get very heavily rewarded for it when you do kind of execute that properly.
That's awesome. And it's gonna be really great for like movement, just moving around across the map, which I know movement is always a big thing that players.
Oh, they're
really want.
really struggling for ideas, huh? It's just like, oh, the Spiritborn is going good. What are they doing? They're teleporting around, they're dashing onto targets. Let's put that onto other things.
It's always great when we can inject like changing.
Casting
how you
Hurl
play
also
right? 'Cause you
spawn
can imagine like launching into
a
group
smaller
of enemies
hurricane on
and
your
picking out
wolves.
specific targets that you really want to launch to, and that's how you optimize. That
Okay,
build
that's kind of cool.
otherwise.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite ones in this patch, actually. Big fan of a lot of these Druid updates. Aspect of Wolf's Rain. So this is a combo kind of legendary, combining the powers of Hurricane and your Wolf companions. So when you cast Hurricane, all of your wolves actually spawn a little mini Hurricane of their own. And these will do bonus damage for each of your active wolves. So it really encourages these companion-based builds that already have this wolf pack of 5 wolves.
Will that
following them
Hurricane
around.
scale off
Now,
companion damage?
Your Hurricane affects all of them, and they get bonus damage for how many you got. So you really want to be stacking up as many wolves as you can. They all get Hurricanes, and you just get to shred through the whole screen with that.
That's super cool.
I don't want to play companion builds, man.
All right, moving on to Rogue. So this is one that Shadow Clone has been probably the Rogue skill that I would say it maybe wasn't quite hitting the mark compared to most other skills. And that was for a variety of reasons. And not to get too technical here on the details, but for a lot of the effects that that you have with your legendaries and your passives and those kind of things, historically Shadow Clone behaved inconsistently with those. It wouldn't necessarily pick up all of the bonuses, it wouldn't trigger all of the effects, and the end result was basically that your Shadow Clone dealt a whole lot less damage than you did. You thought, hey, I'm hitting for millions, and my Shadow Clone's hitting for like thousands, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
make
we
that
really looked at
billions and millions
comprehensively
instead,
thought,
you'd have
okay,
it, I
we need
think.
to kind of rethink how Shadow Clone works across the board to really bring it up to par, to make it behave the way you expect, and then also extend that to a lot of the other summons in the game. The summons like your Necromancer skeletons, your Druid companions, and so on. So we did basically a rework of that entire system. And the long and short of it is that they should just work a whole lot better going forward in this season, where they're going to trigger all of your lucky hit effects. They're going to interact with all of your damage modifiers and multipliers that they previously were inconsistently working with. So just one example here, a very simple example. You've got Wind Striker's aspect. This is a very simple legendary that just says, hey, when you critically strike, gain some movement speed. Now in the past, that was only when your player character, critically strike with one of your skills. And it would not happen whenever one of your Druid companions or your Shadow Clone critically strikes. But now all of that will work. So your companions or your summons or your Shadow Clone critically strikes and you have Wind Strikers, now your character gets that bonus.
It's huge.
Yeah, I really can't overstate this, like how many new interactions and synergies this unlocks with not just Shadow Clone, but all of the summons in general across the game. But with Shadow Clone in particular, we've got a new unique item, and this one is Assassin's Stride. And the effect here works with mobility skills and your shadow imbuement. Once again, kind of playing up that combo aspect. So all of your mobility skills are going to always be shadow imbued with some bonus potency. So they're going to do some more damage.
Mobility skills
And
always shadow
whenever
imbued.
you damage an elite or boss with a mobility skill, there's a chance to trigger an instant free shadow imbuement explosion. So those of you who like playing Shadow Step builds, one of my favorite ones with Rogue, you know, just like Adam had said before about jumping around the screen with werewolves, you can do
I
that
will
with Shadow
say
Step
though,
now
this is
too.
much
And you're just
much
gonna be
better
getting a lot of those,
than what we've seen
those
before
resets
because
and
this
kills
is
much
this is
quicker
a
as
wider
you move out of
tag, right?
shadows,
This
trigger
is what I
shadow
want
imbuement
them to do.
explosion, and then move on
Mobility skills
to the next pack of
do
enemies.
X,
Really
right?
cool,
So it's
unique
not
for that kind of build.
barrage, it's not earthquake, it's
Additionally,
not
Caltrops,
ball lightning.
Maybe the skill
It
that
is
was
mobility
the most kind of
skills.
clunky
That
and
is good.
control-wise
More of
to
that
use.
shit.
Thank God, seriously.
Make stuff
if
that's
you've
based
ever
on
tried to
basic
use
skills, make
Caltrops,
stuff that's based on
it can
core
be a struggle
skills, make
sometimes
things that's
where your
based on
character would leap
whatever sort of
backwards and
tanks you can
you wouldn't
have,
go in the right
projectiles,
direction,
all
wouldn't
that
hit the
shit.
enemies.
That's much
We've
better
updated
than
the
the
animation
clan,
here to
like the
just
what's it called,
basically be
the
a lot-
spell
very
things.
similar to the smoke grenade skill, where you just pick a point on the screen, your character throws it, and it just goes where you point it.
I am the king of like caltropping one minion out of like 100 and then also falling, like jumping back into like a giant mob and going like, well, I didn't calculate that correctly.
Yeah.
So that update, we were talking about this beforehand, like before we even went live. And
So
I was
you're
like,
losing the
thank
backflip on
God,
Caltrops? It's kind of
God.
sad.
Oh my God, please. So yeah.
Not that I
I'm
care. I don't
excited.
play it. I don't
Caltrops
like
can be
them.
so much more usable now, and we think that this is a really good change going forward.
Yeah.
All right, on to the Necromancer. So Necromancer, we've done some improved.
Oh, yeah,
optimization
because
and
Blood
updates to the
Necromancer isn't
overpower
already,
synergies,
like, the best thing, isn't
specifically
it?
The Rathma's Vigor key passive.
Oh, I guess you don't use that, though,
previously, it
maybe.
would
Or
just,
maybe you do.
Give you some an overpower once every 12 seconds, and or when you overhealed for some bonus life. And now we're just tacking on a big chunk of overpower damage to it.
But
We
also
definitely felt
adding
like
3 seconds
these
to it.
pure blood-based overpower builds were just not quite hitting that mark, and just pumping the power into these pure builds through the Rathma's Vigor key passive, we think is going to be very helpful to make these builds really shine. On to the next. We've got one of the new uniques. So similar to what we did with the Sorcerer, where we had kind of these paired uniques, that we're going to have 2 uniques in the same slot for Necromancer as well. This time in the
each time
pants
both ways
slot.
converted your feet, pulling
And
in
they're
all
both going
surrounding
to
enemies,
be
including
working with Blood Wave.
each time.
So this one, Kasemi's Legacy, will cause, instead of shooting 1 blood wave out forward, you're going to get 2
Each
that kind
time
of
an enemy is
converge
hit
on
by
you.
a wave, they
And
take
this, definitely
10%
changes
more
up
damage
the targeting
from
of
your
it,
blood
the
waves,
positioning
up to
requirements, and the use case 'cause it's
300%.
pulling towards you instead of pushing away. So instead of being a defensive skill, it's much more about the damage and pulling them together. And then when they hit, they do a big chunk of damage as well. So definitely turns Blood Wave into a much more damage-focused skill and a little bit less on
We have
the
ultimate damage for
CC,
the damage reduction while
knockback,
fortified. We
crowd
have
control of it.
blood for to deal double damage and cooldown.
Absolutely.
That's pretty good.
Especially if you want to be using this for that big damage.
I don't like that they're adding in competing
Now, the
legendaries.
alternative is Indria's Memory, where
Oh, unique, sorry.
it still shoots the blood wave forward.
Casting Bone Spear
and then
reduces
at
blood
the
wave's
end of its
cooldown.
path, it will trap the targets in a bone prison. So this is a unique that
Blood
is
Wave is
very
additionally a
much
bone skill.
about
This one's a
combining
bone
blood
prison.
and bone. So a little bit less of the pure blood
Jesus.
and much more about combining the 2.
Bone Spear
Now,
is additionally a
additionally,
blood
you see
skill and will drain
we're
terms
using
and
some
max
bone
life
spears
after
here.
each cast after
Or should
hitting
I
image
say
consumes
blood
surrounding
spears,
cause.
because that is what they now become. Blood spears, and instead of costing a bunch of essence, they're going to cost, they drain maximum life, still cost essence there, but they drain maximum life to cast additionally from a nearby corpse to fire an extra bone spear / blood spear.
I hope people are excited.
So
that doesn't seem so
there's a
cool.
lot going on with this one, but I think it really comes together to be a very strong build when you're using the Bone Spear and the Blood Wave, and then casting Bone Spear reduces Blood Wave's cooldown. That's the inherent affix on these legs. Really makes a really cool build that I think synergizes very nicely.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right, and so on to the Spiritborn. So we kind of
Oh, no,
warned at
they're
the start,
nerfing Kepkaleke?
Spiritborn we recognize has been one
Oh
or
my
multiple
God.
steps above most other classes, and players have fun. People love playing the Spiritborn. Very powerful, and we really like that. But we do have to recognize, for the long-term health of the game, it's important that we have a bit better class parity across the board, so you don't feel like you're doing it wrong if you're not playing a Spiritborn.
Yeah, and we have like a lot of the classes outside of the Spiritborn are actually in a really good spot. They're pushing pit tier 100 plus, which is great.
Jesus.
And again, we're not looking to really buff every class up to clearing.
That
pit
is
150
not
easily, right?
just
We
a
don't wanna create
nerf.
that arms race where we just have to continuously sort of ask you,
Dude, from
the player,
3
choose
to
through,
a half?
20 different torment tiers because we're just arms racing that power so much.
Yeah, we do think that kind of our target there is closer to where the other 5 classes are, and Spirit.
I really don't like that.
Too high up,
Outside of that, yeah.
and it's rather than try to power creep the whole game, we'd like to make sure we make some small improvements everywhere else to the underperforming.
I mean, I
builds and
get
those
that
it
it is sort of. The thing is, Kepeleke is a little bit oppressive, right? Maybe a lot.
And so, with that in mind, one of the biggest offenders or biggest power.
But it works on all core skills.
On the Spiritborn was the Rod of Kapaleki here. This one is the one that converts your core skills into basic skills, and it used to do reduced damage based on vigor cost, and admittedly the calculations there were kind of complex, and so we've simplified it down a little bit where they will just gain the bonus critical strike damage. It will be substantially less. Previously it was 1 to 3%. Now it'll be down to 0.1 to 0.5 per point of vigor there.
So,
we think this will bring it to a much healthier spot, but still kind of retain the core fantasy and the core build implications
it
of this
doesn't
item.
matter if the
It just
core
won't be
fantasy
pushing
stays if
quite
it's
the same,
useless, bro.
Trillions of damage that we were seeing before.
We also fixed some of the issues called out here at the above, like viscous shield and things like that. Scaling
Dude,
unintended ways.
Maybe it's fine, but that feels like an
Yeah,
overcorrection.
definitely some unintended kind of bugged interactions that were maybe double dipping or scaling too high. We've taken a pass to make those more in line with our expectations. All right. Additionally, we've got new aspects. Of course, being a class in Diablo 4, you're going to be getting new content every season. So we've got new legendary aspect here, the aspect of Endless Talons that causes you a Razor Wings to increase all of your Eagle skill damage. And
That sounds ass to play with, though. Only 4 seconds.
Even more stacks, so you can really stack that up. It stacks up to 50%. That's a whole lot. So you really want to be spamming out these Razor Wings and getting those crits to stack this up.
I mean, I think Spiritborn is going to be fine. It's just the Kepeleke is
where we talked about how Razor Wings and Centipede builds are getting some extra love in this specific season, which were more so underutilized in season 6. So with season
the Spiritborn is probably going to be fine. It's just Kepeleke is going to get fucking
and how they actually tie back in
destroyed.
with some of the changes that we're doing for those builds.
Absolutely,
dude. I have like
we've got
if you have 250 vigor,
underused uniques as well.
You're gonna get 125 critical strike damage
would trigger
now.
A Pestilent Swarm every 10 seconds. We felt like that was a little too long given the pace of combat in our game, and especially compared to some of the other options at the unique slot, the ring slot. So we've reduced that down to every 4 seconds. You'll spawn a Pestilent Swarm, and the vigor generated goes up from 1 up to 3. So a lot more.
Critical strike, movement, lucky hit, vulnerable, lucky hit.
So we want to make sure this is a
vulnerable, unrestrained power is gone though, and Pestilent Swarm deal double damage.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the broader updates that affects all classes. So the one I'm excited about here is the ultimate updates. So in the previous season, we introduced skill
just for ultimates. Okay, I'm not that interested
you can now
then.
rank up your ultimate up to rank 5, and that was good. Gave you some cooldown reduction, some damage. But now, when you actually fully invest in it up to that rank 5, every ultimate in the game is going to get a new rank 5 bonus. So, for example, here on Lacerate, we've got at rank 5, Lacerate's damage is going to be increased by 40% of your critical strike damage bonus. It gives it this scaling factor. So you can see on the left, Lacerate at rank 1 is doing about 38,000 damage, but you bring it up to 5, and it goes crazy high up to 119,000 damage because it's now getting that critical strike damage scalar. And so if you really want to build a dedicated Lacerate build as kind of your core damaging effect, this is going to be a great way to build around it and a good reward for investing all those extra skill points into it.
Definitely. I love to see us add more things that incentivize you to actually put some points into skills.
Yeah. So often, sometimes you'd see if you just wanted the access to the utility of the ultimate, hey, it's fine to put in 1 point, right? You get 1 point, you get the utility, maybe you get some buff from it. But if you really want to invest in it, we want to make sure that that investment in those skill ranks feels meaningful. And we think these rank 5 bonuses on ultimates in particular is going to be a really good way to pay off those ultimate builds.
Definitely.
All right, we've also got some new generic legendary aspects to really support this style that talk directly to ultimate skills. So we've got the Vehement Brawlers aspect that causes casting an ultimate skill increases all of your damage output by 10 to 30% for 8 seconds. And you also gain additional skill ranks in your ultimate. So, hey, we just talked about skill rank bonuses. Now we've got a legendary that will give you some bonus skill ranks.
Nice.
Is that going to give you rank 5
Ring
then?
of
Or
Magic Fervor, which says casting your ultimate skill will increase your damage by 8 to 18%, so a little bit less than the Vehement Brawlers, but it stacks up to 10 times, so you can get way more if you can.
Yeah, but the other
cast your
one is not
fast
ultimate
enough to
damage.
kinda
The other one
chain
is
it together.
damage.
So this will be really good for like rogues that use preparation to really get that ultimate cooldown reduction, or any build that really wants to focus around casting your ult many times in a row. This one is going to be a great legendary for those style of builds. All right, we've also done some updates to the rune words. And so rune words.
Dude, I'm not digging
Vessel
what they're doing.
Feature has been really well received. We think that they've really spiced up some build variety, and we're going to add some new runes here and update some of the old ones. So all of the invocation runes have overflow. So the cost of many of them have also been adjusted to allow you to proc this overflow effect when you generate more offering than needed much more often. And then also the ritual runes, the ones that generate the offering, some of them have been redesigned to have some larger potential moments of this overflow. So an example here on the Seer rune, this generates a ton of offering, 300 offering at once. And you get that by casting 5 skills. But then, instead of just casting 5 skills and then generating all of it and then casting 5 again instantly, we've added in this exhausted period for 3 seconds. So you can get that 300 offering at once, but then you got to wait 3 seconds before you start building up those stacks again.
Yeah, so it's like getting like large buckets every like couple seconds instead of offering now with these.
Yeah, this is a good tuning knob to kind of make sure that, hey, we can give you the strong moment of power, but then it is followed by a little bit of a weaker moment.
The fucking tuning knobs, bro.
Every rune always just being a steady amount. We would like to have those peaks and valleys. I really think that leads to more interesting moments of gameplay.
Yeah, it's about potency versus frequency.
Right.
So you get really strong effects, but you can't do it as often.
Right. And that'll play right into the updates with a lot of the overflow.
Oh yeah, let me play with my fucking runes. Yeah, I totally don't want the rune to just be a consistent source of permanent power.
So let's talk about
I want the runes to be
we've got
something I fucking min-max.
Yeah, so we've got 3 new rune words here. The Nagu rune, a legendary rune that will gain 100 offering as long as you're maintaining a summon. And so, as I kind of alluded to earlier with the Shadow Clone section, summon is our new catch-all term for anything that you summon.
So you get 600
that includes things like Necromancer minions,
offering every
Druid
5 seconds.
Sorcerer conjurations, Rogue Shadow
So
Clones,
find a rune with a 5-second buff.
Effects, Call of the Ancients, and some of the legendaries on those are all summons.
Stores offering every 0.3.
Generate 25
cast
offering,
and non-basic skills to gain the stored offering.
But it stores up offering every 0.3 seconds. So,
Sounds
you're actually
annoying
getting
to
about
play with.
75 offering per second, roughly. And you actually cash it in by casting a non-basic skill to get that
fucking
offering. So
smite anybody?
You're out there kind of spamming your basic skill, you're going to be kind of banking up this offering. And then when you cast the non-basic, you cash all in, you probably trigger the rune it's connected to, you get a big overflow, you get a big moment of power there. And finally, we've got the Chak rune that generates, or requires 20 offering rather, and this will invoke Druid's Lightning Bolt. That's one of those, it's not the core skill, but Lightning Bolt is kind of
the Nagu is going to be insane for summoning builds,
kit,
I think.
Similar to like Earthquake or Stun Grenades. Yeah. So enable
tie it up to something that's roughly a 5-second buff, and you go blast.
Awesome. Lots
All
of
right.
runes.
Yeah.
Lots of rune
Lot
word
of rune
updates.
stuff.
Lots of changes coming to classes. You know, there's more changes in the notes that we'll have that will be hitting next week.
I am
So
not
everybody's
very
gonna look
excited
into
for
those.
this.
These
This
are just a few
did
examples that we
not
have
seem
from
like the way
PTR.
I wanted it to go.
And of course,
Why would
really
they
need feedback
release
on a lot of these
competing
changes. I know
uniques
there's some people
for
going
that would
in chat
play the
going like,
same
"Hey,
build?
noticing like, you know,
Like,
maybe you're giving a lot of
it's
offering,
just
but then
bloat.
there's a little bit of a cooldown period or something like
The
that.
fuck's the
Let us
point?
know. Like, we want people to try this
Unless
out, like test it out.
we
so
get
that
to
have
use
the
multiple
feedback
uniques.
before we go live with patch 2.1, we can end up making any feedback changes based off of community feedback. So lots of cool stuff. Thank you so much for walking us through all the different class changes and everything like that, Charles. Do we have
What's going to
Dan
happen is one of them is going to be
available from
good,
Albany?
and the other one's
We
going to
do
be
have
shit.
Dan. Dan
I
is
can
actually
hear
gonna
you
walk us
now.
through it.
Maybe
there we
both are
go.
shit.
Hey, I was like, Dan was just like staring blankly at the camera, and I was like,
Yes,
uh-oh,
I
what's going on?
was.
But
Yeah, I know.
Dan is actually going to be talking about all the new content that's coming in patch 2.1 with season 7. So Dan, do you want to take it away and
All right, bring us the new season.
Absolutely. A couple of technical difficulties could not keep me from sharing this with everybody. So, this PTR for patch 2.1 is a PTR of a couple firsts at this point. This is going to be the first time that we're bringing the seasonal realm to a PTR. So what does this mean? We've got a lot of seasonal content coming up in Season 7.
Ooh.
And we want to be able to get all of your feedback on this content. It's pretty important for us to, you know, like Adam was saying, really have those iteration cycles where y'all are
Witchcraft?
able to test and, you know, show what's working and what isn't. This is also going to be the first time since Season 2 that we're bringing back seasonal character powers. So if you remember in Season 2, Season of Blood, they were vampire powers, and you slotted them into your Sanguine Circle. And so for Season 7, it's going to be a little bit different. Not vampires this time. This time it's going to be witchcraft. And so I'm excited to really dig into that right now and tease out what y'all can play in a couple weeks. So witchcraft enables you as a practitioner to call upon the power of the swamp to do your bidding.
Okay.
So you've met some witches before in the game, and you're going to meet some more in the coming season. But before I really dive into witchcraft, we got to talk about your enemies. Now, your enemies of this season are going to be called the Head Rotten. Now, the Head Rotten are abominations that spawned from the Tree of Whispers. And you're going to slay them and collect what we call Restless Rot. And this is going to be our currency for the season.
So far, it sounds a lot like
like
season
I said,
2.
You know, the season is about witchcraft, so there are going to be some witches. And those witches are going to be residing around the Tree of Whispers, and they're going to have some altars. And these altars are pretty important to you learning your witchcraft. And so you're going to travel to an altar, you're going to make an offering of Restless Rot, and that's going to enable you to learn the witchcraft. Now, equipping witchcraft is going to be pretty simple. You know, we wanted to take what was
Deadly swarm of
best
fire bats swarm
from a
enemies
lot of
every
these
second, inflicting
styles
total
of
fire damage
menus that
over
we've done in
10
the
total
past,
attacks. Enemies suffer
and
15 safe
distill it
fire damage
into
are stunned.
something that's very convenient and easy to use. And the result is this witchcraft menu that you can see in front of you. And so equipping is going to be super simple. You've got an inventory on the bottom, and then you're going to drag or otherwise move that
5
power
normal,
to one of the
1
slots
unique.
up top. And you're going to have 5 normal slots, 5 normal powers you can equip at any point, and 1 unique power for, you know, really special witchcraft that you can
Seems
find.
very similar to season 2.
The other thing is that you can upgrade your witchcraft directly in that inventory using Restless Rot. So again, we're streamlining the process to, you know, make it easy for players to equip and upgrade their witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, it wouldn't be a season without some rewards, and so let's talk about those a little bit.
Okay.
This season, we're going to have another reputation-style gameplay in the form of Coven's Favor. Now, killing Head Rotten will get you Headless Rot, or killing Head Rotten will get you Restless Rot. But in order to advance the Coven's Favor, you actually need to complete Whispers. And completing those Whispers will increase your rank, and allow you to unlock rewards, including items and materials and things like that. In addition, new to this season, you're going to also unlock at certain ranks new witchcraft.
Oh no.
And then you will have new things you can learn from those altars. And then, because everyone loves it, we're bringing back the Resplendent Spark as well.
Oh, easy legendary or easy mythic unique farm then.
Coven's favorite rank. And of course, the Resplendent Spark nowadays can be used from crafting, a random mythic unique to actually targeting uniques using a lot of those runes that you can earn in the game. All right, one last little thing with respect to witchcraft. So we wanted to try out something a little bit different. And so we've also created several powers that are lost to these witches, the Coven of the Swamp.
Oh no.
And so those you can only find by traveling out in the world and discovering forgotten altars. And these forgotten altars will allow you to learn these lost powers. And we just thought we'd try something a little bit different here. And let us know what you think about it.
That sounds ass.
Let's talk about some of the witchcraft itself. We've talked it up a bit. We're going to release, it's over 20 powers for the season.
So 21.
Show you 4
Noted.
of those right now. So
4.
Let's talk about the first one. This one's really popular. This is the Poison Frog.
Oh, I like the frog.
So Poison Frog, as you imagine,
but I
is
don't
a
like
servant
companions.
that you can summon that fights alongside you. As its name implies, it will poison your enemies. And, if it runs out of health, it's going to explode viciously with a lot of poison damage. Folks are having a lot of fun with this one. Next up is Doom Orb. So Doom Orb is a pure orb of eldritch energy.
That's cool.
That circles around you and damages any enemy it touches. And it can also launch itself at distant enemies before returning. Also another favorite at this point. Vengeful Servant. So Vengeful Servant, as the name implies, is another servant like the frog. And this one will absorb damage and then rush enemies. And then last but not least, we've got one of those lost witchcraft powers I was telling you about. And this is Piranado. So this one procs when you cast other powers. And so if you cast a hex and an aura at the same time and inflict it upon an enemy, there's a chance that you will then proc the Piranado. And the Piranado, as you can see, sucks everything into it in a swirling dervish of fish and destruction. So, that's a peek at some of the witchcraft powers you're going to be able to play with soon.
They look shit.
But what good are powers if we aren't offering you some new activities within the season to participate in? And so these come in the form of headhunts. Now, headhunts are a whisper-driven activity. And so the tree is searching for these head rotten. The tree wants you to eliminate these head rotten. And so it's going to help you by highlighting areas within the world.
It's so fucking Helltide 3.0.
So you're going to follow the whispers in order to, find the headhunts and kill the head rotten. Now, these are subzone takeovers, similar to Helltides. They're going to feature a number of all new whispers mixed in with some existing ones. This was an opportunity for our team to try out some new whispers and really kind of tell a little bit of a story each time you're going out on a headhunt, because whispers offer us that opportunity. Now, completing whispers has a chance of spawning a head rotten boss. And the head rotten bosses are the things you're really going to be looking out for, because those are going to give you some additional rewards I'm going to tell you about. Delivering a head rotten boss's head to the Tree of Whispers enables you to earn occult gems.
Okay, what do they do?
Let's talk about occult gems. Now, we're pretty excited about
this might be cool. This might be cool.
Occult gems are special socketables that have unique effects.
Fuck
that help
yes.
you fine-tune your build. So they can only be
yeah,
slotted in the
boy.
slot.
Diablo 3 coming in
so
hot.
This is a way of
Please be
basically
cool.
having them coexist with runes. And they only last for the season. So when your items transfer to the Eternal Realm at the end of the season, these are going to disappear. But in the meantime, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with them.
Okay, so these are the powers we're excited about. The other ones were kind of boring.
So each occult gem has built-in defense. We don't want you to have to.
Oh,
make a
nice. You don't
choice
give up that
between,
shit. You get both?
a royal diamond,
Okay.
a royal skull, and an occult gem. So all of these occult
Attempts
gems
to
have
hex.
defense built into them, so that really you're getting a bonus above and beyond those gems that I just described.
There's hopefully
And
more
so
than this.
here are some examples of them. First up, we've got the Elder Sigil. This is going to boost your damage whenever you hex enemies. So if you're leaning into certain types of hexes you like using, Elder Sigil may be a good fit for you. Killing Wind. This is going to boost your crit and move for folks who
Your crit
really
and move.
dig, specking out with Eldritch powers. So if you equip 3 or more Eldritch powers, then slotting a Killing Wind into, say, one of your rings might benefit you quite a bit. And then finally, we've got Duststone. This is
So
a
just
legendary
permanent
one, so
25%
it's gonna be
movement speed
even
and
more
15%
powerful
crit
than
strike.
the other two I
Okay.
talked about. This is going to boost when you use Hex and Aura and afflict other enemies with those. So each time you do that, not only do you have a chance to proc that Piranado I talked about before,
Oh,
but
for
you're going
fuck's
to
sake.
increase the damage that you output per affliction.
The only one
So
that
you can
looked
kinda get a
slightly interesting
sense
was the
that
Piranado
the
because
old gems
everything else was
are
just it does
providing you
damage
even
of a
more
type.
incentives
That one at least
for,
groups enemies for you.
creating a certain type of build. And we are just really excited to see what kind of combinations y'all come up with. I think, yeah, it's gonna
These
be
seem
pretty
so
exciting.
simple that there's just going to be 3
So,
ones you slot into every
final
build
thing
essentially.
is, we were doing a lot with the Tree of Whispers. We've got the witches around them, so we thought, well, we should, take some of the quality of life feedback we've heard from players and try and address it. So the first thing we've done is we've updated the town around the Tree of Whispers.
Oh, nice.
We added some more services to it because we expect you to be returning to it a lot more this season. And we've changed the layout a little bit to make it a little more convenient to navigate and move the waypoint so that it's just quicker to get to the Tree of Whispers. To try and
Let's
things.
fucking go.
But sometimes, you're in the middle of a headhunt we found, and you're getting a lot of grim favor, but you don't want to leave. You want to try and go fight the boss that you just summoned, right? So,
So you can
we've
hand them in?
also implemented what we call the Raven of the Tree. And the Raven of the Tree appears in every headhunt zone, and that allows you to turn in your grim favor on the spot. so
Could
that
you
don't
just
have
make
to
it
go
so
back
you
to the
can
tree
bank
town. Now,
grim
you're not
favors
gonna have
instead?
access to all those other services, so you hit your inventory limit, you'll probably want to go back to town. But in the moment, when you're in a flow, you can go to the Raven of the Tree, get your cash, and then keep fighting. And then finally, we felt like we wanted to expand the rewards a little bit more for the Tree of Whispers, so we've added ancestral caches. It's a pretty low probability of getting one, but they're there. And these guarantee you getting an ancestral item from a cache. So obviously you see this pop up.
Oh my
I have a
fucking
feeling you're
god.
probably
So
gonna select it.
there's a low
So,
chance of those and
yeah,
they guarantee
I
you
think that's
one.
all
So
I
it's like
have
still
to, talk
useless.
about for the upcoming PTR. So I'll kick it back over to you, Adam.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. Talking about a ton of new stuff coming for patch 2.1 PTR and, of course, Season 7. I'm super excited for all the Tree of Whisper updates. I know a lot of people in chat are, especially with the Raven, not having to go back to the Tree of Whispers every single time, being able to turn in Grim Favors right there through the Raven. On top of that, also just the rework of the zone, so everything's a little bit closer. You don't have to walk all the way
I don't think I'm that
across to walk
excited.
all the way back to the waypoint or to get to the vendors and
They
everything.
didn't show
So
me
there's a lot of
anything
big
I was
changes
excited
with
about.
that. And
That'll actually-
please do choose the ancestral cache.
Yes,
Like,
that's so
why would
powerful.
you not? Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember we added the ability to favorite waypoints
Yes.
as
Yeah.
part of Season 6 or of the last patch that we did. So it's super helpful with that Witch Town.
Yeah, most definitely. And of course, we've people have been seeing some of the new.
I thought those
witchcraft
gems were gonna
powers
be
and
Diablo 3
noticing
style.
some familiarities of like past Diablo lore, and
I
will say
thought they were
we'll
gonna be
talking
more
about the story
permanent.
of Season 7
But I
as
guess
we
they
get
might be
closer to
testing
launch,
it
so,
before they do
players can
something
hear
permanent.
More about kind of like the origins of all of like what we've been kind of talking about here with this story with Diablo 4. So thank you again, Dan, for walking us through all the content that's coming with Season 7. And of course, last but not least, we do want to talk about some big quality of life changes. One really, really big one that we're really excited to talk about. And Mr. Colin Feiner will talk and walk us through
Armory.
everything.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So most of these are sort of systemic updates, so I'll talk through them. Paragon migration is more just a reminder on how the new Paragon system works. All of the Paragon experience that you've earned in a season is actually at the end of Season 6 going to be added to your Eternal Realm Paragon. So what that means is
Yeah,
if you're
nothing
Paragon
really-
level 230 on a season, all of that 230 worth of experience is going to get added to your Eternal, which probably is going to level up your Eternal Paragon. And I mention this because we added the really cool Soul Stone. I kept calling it the Vessel of Hatred Crystal, but it's a Soul
There's
Stone.
no armory.
That really cool Soul Stone that you get at Paragon level 300, you can actually earn that on Eternal. So if you're not willing to sort of put in hundreds of hours to get that in a season, you can work your way there on the Eternal Realm as you sort of cash in these seasons. So we think that's going to feel
Yeah, if you
good.
play any less than 100 hours, it's going to take you 3-4 seasons.
And then eventually you'll end up just getting enough XP to actually earn those rewards at level 300 Paragon. So that's actually, it's not like, I have to have it in this season or something like that. You know, you probably end up getting it in a couple seasons if you play pretty extensively and you level up your Paragon.
Yeah, definitely. The second one
I'm
here
getting 300
is
this season,
now
fuck it.
we are essentially tying the unique power. So if you think about like the Fists of Fate, that random damage roll from 1 to 200, that's going to be tied. The floor is going to be tied to the amount of greater affixes that are on that item. So if you have one greater
Let's
affix,
fucking go.
the floor is going to go up a little bit from the 1%. When you get 4 greater affixes, it's going to go up quite a bit. It's not exactly perfect because we wanted to maintain the sort
Huey
of
announced in
specialness
10,
of the
wasn't it in
4GA
20?
with the perfect unique roll. We've seen some of those on Reddit, and I think it's always such a cool moment
12.
to sort of see those
Okay.
drop. But it's going to be a substantial increase to the power of the floor. So it's going to be nearly impossible to get a 4GA with a really crappy unique power roll.
Yeah. It's always great getting a 4GA and then
And then rolling it.
1%.
Yeah. That always just feels bad. You never want to be comparing like, oh, I got a 4GA. Well, my 1GA1 is maybe better because it has a better unique roll. That wasn't a moment we felt was really enticing, so we wanted to make sure that the more GAs you get, just the better.
Am I getting
the
my own
item
channel
is,
points?
comprehensively, just better.
Yeah, absolutely. So that should help quite a bit. And then I'm going to talk about one thing previously on that, which is ancestral legendaries. They are now going to, when an ancestral item drops, it's going to drop the top end of the legendary aspect roll. So if you think in Season 6, we added 5 more ranks to compensate ancestral being added. Rank 21 is usually where they end up landing. Now, ancestral items, when they drop, they're going to be at the top end of that. So you should always be pretty excited when an ancestral drops because it's always the best sort of top end ranks of that legendary power that could drop.
we
My own
saw
channel
lots
points?
of conspiracy theories on Reddit of people going like, hey, I think like my Codex of Power is not getting updated correctly or something like that. And we totally understand. Like,
How is this quality of life though? Like, how is this what you, the Paragon migration? We already knew. Wait, what happened? Did I pause? Stream crash? Am I here? Oh, great. Okay, here we are.
Operate across the board. They're not going to be raining from the sky, but it's definitely a pretty substantial increase that we think is just going to level up all the different activities in the game, and that should just feel a lot better. We don't want to go too far where they're no longer special, but we thought that we were a little bit too conservative.
We're going to get more ancestral. Let's go.
Affect all torment tiers, right? Not just tier torment 4.
Yep, exactly. So all torment tiers are going to get this increase.
Great.
Armory.
Next one. So we saw that gems were dropping a little too frequently, constantly getting stuck on the ground, and players were capped on them. So we are doing a pass to reduce them overall, but to compensate, we're actually adding a sink for them. So you're going to be able to take gem fragments and craft random legendary amulets and random legendary rings. Those all obviously have a chance to be ancestral once you get into the torment. So it's a really nice way for us to sort of make sure that you're never hitting a point where you just have so many gem fragments. They're worthless, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
And then the next one I think is going to be I'm super excited about, and that's class quest updates. They're going to work similar to Altars of Lilith, right? Do you have more details on that?
Yeah. So class quests. So most classes, or every class has this special mechanics. So like on Sorceress, you've got your enchantment slots. And in the past, when you hit level 15, you'd get a quest where you had to go and
I don't have to do that anymore? Fuck yeah.
Lost home. So for players who have already completed that, you are going to, if you do need to log into that character first to kind of unlock it across your account. But once you've done that, any subsequent sorceress that you make, once you hit level 15, you're going to immediately unlock that first enchantment slot. And then once you hit level 30, you'll unlock the second one. Now, for every class, the exact level is going to be different. It depends on when that would normally unlock, but you won't have to go through the whole quest line to do so. But for those of you who really enjoyed doing those quests, there will be a pretty juicy reward if you do choose to do it, but you're going to get that mechanic right off the bat.
That's awesome. And you could still just log into your seasonal character and do it to unlock the class mechanic. We don't require you to log into your eternal character to get this. Cool. So I think that's going to be awesome. I always like check the time, like, oh, I'm level 40. I should probably go do my class.
Oops.
I have definitely forgotten to unlock my golem.
They were not ready to show the armory. Let's go, finally.
Well, production spoiled it as they raise their hands up in the air. But the next update is obviously a big one, which is finally we don't have to say this is in development still. Armory is coming with Season 7 patch 2.1.
Go.
So, Colin, want to go through it all?
Absolutely, yeah. This one was a really niche request. We had to dive super deep into the forum. So that one guy who asked for this is for you. I'm just kidding. This has been a super hot requested feature. We're excited to bring it to everybody. So
changing between loadout slot with differing Paragon loadouts does not cost gold?
All of your skills, all of your Paragon.
Oh,
Paragon
shit.
glyphs, can even name it. And what this really allows you to do is be a lot more flexible in the end game, right? So if you're really liking your Fireball build, but you got this really sweet Ball Lightning unique, now it's really easy to just save off that Fireball build if you ever want to come back to it, and you can start building out that Ball Lightning build. So we're really excited about this. We're not going to charge you for respecing or anything like that, so you save it, it's yours. It's even come with some cool quality of life things where we actually mark all of the equipment that's actually part of an armory slot. And that's really important to know because we're just saving the equipment, right?
Yeah.
So you'll want to know if you're going to modify this item that it would affect any of the loadouts that are currently using this item.
Yeah, if you take a legendary and say change the imprinted aspect on it, you know, it's still part of that build, so it might not be the right one. So you do probably want to get multiple sets of gear if you want to be building these up, but it's so much easier to swap between them, so much easier to explore all of the new build possibilities.
I mean, obviously you need multiple different pieces of gear because you need different temperings, but yeah, this is fucking great.
It's even in the training rooms, which is very nice.
This is very great. This is amazing.
We will swap it from anywhere. So if the equipment is in your stash or if it's in your inventory, you don't have to worry about it. We'll just swap it out for you.
Yeah, it'll just it's auto-magically does it, which is really nice.
Auto-magically.
It makes it as easy as possible for players to be able to really utilize the feature, which I think
That's great, man. That's so good.
Cool. So yeah, we're super excited. We're really leaning into the flexibility.
I really hope they're buffing Sorcerer, though. I'm still worried about that.
To switch around, and we think this should
Like, I'm not
open
saying
up
Sorcerer is weak or anything right now, but if they take away the fire, that is most of their damage reduction and a lot of their increased damage
and I think one thing
for
I do
everything
wanna
that is in the
note,
fire
because this
build
will be
gone.
In PTR, we really need people to actually test it. It's a brand new feature. There's a lot of complexities behind it. Obviously, it's pulling things from your stash, pulling things from other inventories, etc. So want to make sure that players actually do get an opportunity to actually test it during PTR. Give us feedback. It's something that we're going to continuously iterate. One thing I do want to call out is in PTR, it won't have controller support. It will have controller support when we do launch it with patch 2.1, the final patch itself. But for the PTR, it won't.
Are you about done?
There won't be controller support on it. So I just want to caveat that now for players that are actually that do play on controller to note that it won't be there for that specifically. So tons of changes coming for Season 7. Obviously, all the class changes, the ultimate changes that Charles talked about, the balance and items are related to that. New rune words, reworked rune words as well. We have, of course, all the Season 7 stuff that Dan talked about with the witchcraft powers.
Those look fucking boring.
Gems. So we want players to
The coolest thing about those is that it gives Sorcerer a way to do poison damage, so you can have an extra buff on your Rashas if it counts as the Sorcerer doing damage. Like, that's the only cool thing I thought about.
I forgot. Sorry, I forgot about PTR updates. I can't even follow my own agenda that's like sitting here on a piece of paper, Adam. But we do actually have some PTR updates really quickly that I do want to talk about because as you guys remember, the prior PTRs, we did character copies before, or account copies from your main accounts. Things are going to be a little different for patch 2.1. This is way better for players. If you guys remember back with even the patch 2.0 PTR, we actually did an account copy, and it was like weeks and weeks in advance, and people are like, whoa, this is like my Barb from like, you know, it feels like yesteryear or something like that. Now we are giving the flexibility of players being able to account copy on demand, essentially, for PTR. So with patch 2.1 PTR, there will be a kind of a new button on the UI where you'll be able to actually account copy over to your PTR account. So it'll take all your characters from your normal account and move them over. There are a few caveats we do want to mention, though, is that it does replace everything once you do that, and you can do it multiple times. So, but each time you do that, it does replace it all. So if you do bounce between, you know, PTR and like your main account on the normal game servers, and let's say you get new gear, you can move those things over. Just note it's going to wipe everything on your PTR when you do that. If you also utilize let's say you don't actually utilize the account copy over, and you actually use the account boost or the character boost that we actually have within PTR, just note that if you do account copy over afterwards, it will also replace those. So just be careful with that. We'll make sure to note that all in the blog so players are aware. But it is just a caveat that we do want to mention for players, but it does
Getting annoyed by people not realizing mechanics after 80 pulls? Yeah, that's WoW rating, man.
There we go. But new additions for the boosts and that we have for PTR, obviously we'll end up having the new unique items within the character boost that will be available in Season 7 PTR. We'll have, you know, witchcraft powers, the witchcraft progression items that we had talked about earlier as well. So those will be all part of the PTR boost. So it gives you guys the tools of being able to test everything and getting us feedback for anything that you guys want to change.
I'll go back and listen to the
and patch 2.1.
what's it called?
Cool. Now we can go into Q&A. I do want to
Q&A after.
call out quickly, just a reminder that we will have a blog up immediately after the stream for PTR. Patch notes will be next Wednesday. Again, this is due to us streaming a little early for the holidays, just to make sure that everyone was here to do a stream for PTR. And then PTR is planning on starting on December 3rd. So players will be able to jump into PTR then. Of course, it is just PC Battle.net, just easier for us and more flexibility.
I wish I could play a thin druid. Yes, brother.
PTR. But I know we have a question teed up, so if you have questions, please put them in chat, and we will get those, you know, we'll try to address as many as possible for the end of the stream. I have to like reach over, there's like a plant here that no one can see, but will all the PTR content be available on day one is a question that we...
I'm going back to that later.